Welcome to the Search Bar, where we're talking about why authenticity is winning in modern marketing. So gone are the days of the dominance of the 30-second TV commercials from giant corporations. Today we're seeing the rise of a new powerful marketing trend, which is authenticity. Your audience today, especially if they're younger, really craves authenticity, and being real wins in marketing. So I have Melissa with me here today, and I was going to ask you, Melissa, where do you see authenticity winning in marketing today?
Yeah, I feel like this is just social right now. This is what's popping. This is why influencer marketing is taking off so much right now, because really what it comes down to is, instead of being behind the logo of a brand or an organization, instead we're literally looking at the faces of the real people behind them, because I think we've kind of swung in this way of saying, like, instead of going through stereotypes, we're saying we want to actually see who's really behind this. What does a product look like, feel like? How does it work with someone who looks, feels, does something like me, something that I can relate to, rather than it just saying, here's a one all catch all for every person who might be like a woman, or every person who might be a male. And this is how the brand's going to push something out.
And social does such a good job of that, because social, I mean, you mentioned influencers, but you can really follow real, authentic individuals on social.
And conversations
On social versus, in the past, again, these big corporations making commercials about their brand and how great their products and services are. Not that that's bad necessarily, but I think especially younger people are really craving like authentic conversations. And instead of seeing what a brand says about itself, seeing what a real authentic person says about that brand, it seems to be more powerful now.
Yeah, well, there's a thing that my team and I reference where it says, we call it, I ran to the comments, because so many people, even in social, when they're watching a video of what an influencer is talking about, a certain product that they're looking at reviewing. I deal a lot with the beauty space, and what we're seeing in that behavior is that the person who's watching it is usually listening and then running like through the comments, just seeing what everybody else says that's either validating or invalidating what that person said, that the influencer is talking about. So it's kind of this, it's not just the video or the post or the content, it's also the content on top of the content, right?
Yeah.
The comments on top of the content, which actually even pushes that authenticity even farther.
And you see that too on something like Amazon, where obviously there's
With
a ton of content on the page, but a lot of people are like, I'm going to go see what the reviews say, because you want to know, like, what do real people actually say about this?
And it's not even what the reviews say. It's, do those reviews have images or videos? Because those are the reviews that get the most use now, because you get to see, how does that product look? And then what does the person say about it? So you get the opinion, as well as you yourself visually being able to interpret what you like or don't like about the product from a visual perspective.
Yes. So like the brands that are winning now are authentic, are real. And, I feel like we've become so tired of like the PR lines from businesses and corporations, and so much more interested in, more real, authentic messaging. And
tell me what it really means.
Tell me what it really means. Yeah, that sort of thing. Again, especially younger people. You were talking earlier about authenticity versus brevity. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So coming from a search background in the search world, there's a lot of influences from social, and then there's a lot of influences from an AI perspective. And I feel like search is kind of stuck here in the middle of like what's happening and what is influencing search behavior because of user behavior on these other platforms. So social is definitely where you get a lot more of this kind of real, non-perfect, like off the cuff, mistakes are said in that world and in those posts for that authentic approach. But then you have AI, and everybody talking about AI, and like Search GPT is going to be launching, and Perplexity is out there, and Gemini from Google, and those platforms give everything in what I call in a very like brief approach. So the brevity of the answer. So if somebody is looking for the best LED face masks, they might just want a list of like, these are the best. instead of going to social where you're going to have lots and lots and lots of opinions, right, of people saying what they think are going to be the best. So it's really this weird dichotomy that's happening where it's like you might want a fast answer, but you also want then it to be backed up with all the authenticity, because like, why would I trust the AI's like bulleted list of answers? So Perplexity and a few others like have those citations so you can click off to either watch more about it, or it brings in some of that content within there. But yeah, it's this dual place that's happening right now between authenticity and brevity, and how you bring the both together. I actually think that's why most people prefer TikTok out of everything, and then also why YouTube Shorts are rising right now, because they are brief.
It's
you get an
authentic and
answer.
it's brief.
You get an
it's a great
answer
point.
really quick.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately our attention spans, we just like can't keep up with it right now. We don't want to hear the blah, 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 get all the fluff out of the way. Just give me the freaking answer.
And I think that's why TLDR is popular too, like on a web page. And it is kind of nice when you go to a web page and it's too long, didn't read up top. There's some bullet points or the recipes just up at the top.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having a lot of content. That can be beneath it, but sometimes that brevity is good. And again, we're talking about authenticity. I think one of the reasons of the rise of authenticity is because of AI content, is fake AI generated things. You look at, there was a Coca-Cola commercial recently, and it was a Christmas commercial, and people got upset because it was very clear that this commercial was AI generated, and people just didn't like it. I mean, they wanted a more authentic human-made animated commercial, I suppose. So I think authenticity is on the rise in part because of AI generated content. But like you said, I do think the one place that AI often does better than humans is that brevity.
Yeah, there was actually a case study. I forget who did this research, but they had surveyed many people, and it came out that the thing that they liked about AI content is that it did get to the point a lot faster.
Yeah, and like a takeaway for you, if you have a website here, is I think write really great original content. Lots of content is great. Make long videos if you want, but especially if you're writing website content, use SEO best practices so it's scannable by humans and by bots and by AI. So in other words, writing, short, concise paragraphs. It can be a lot of them, but make them, add bullet points, have a heading one, and then have H2s throughout. And, have the sentiment of a question in your H2, and then briefly answer it in the sentence after that in paragraph text, and then expand upon it beneath. So these are just SEO best practices, but write in a way that AI and search bots can easily scan and summarize your content, and humans can too.
I would say humans do it. Most of the time when I talk with clients, they don't realize, like when they have content on their website, how much the user experience is. They go from search, right? You click on a result that it has a certain title that interests you. You get to the page. I don't read from top to bottom. Most users will go through and scroll to see, like, is the thing that I was looking for of interest in this? And then once they've decided that they've seen enough that's going to, give them the answer to that interest, they will then scroll back up to the top and then start reading down. So it's all about what I call web readability. They're going to go through and scan to see, like, does this have the keywords or the things that I'm interested in highlighted? And then once I've decided to commit, you have to have all of the background behind that. That's where the longer form content comes in. That's also where the authenticity comes in. So something that I talk about, and like you were just kind of referencing, is you're referencing it as SEO best practices. I like to think of that as structured content, because that's really all that is we're putting a structure to that content of saying, this is my title, here are my secondary portions, your H2s, and then bullet points are structure. Table formatted content is actually structure, and it's not just structure for the bot to understand, but it's actually structure for humans as well. Like for us to be able to more quickly categorize it, not just in our heads, but visually. In the way that we understand all of that. That's why bullet points work so well with humans and bots.
Another way I think that we can all be more authentic when it comes to our online presence is just simply writing content in your own real voice.
Yeah.
Like, don't have typos or anything like that, but not trying to be too
someone you're not.
Yes, being authentic. Not keyword stuffing, not being too like professional or stuffy, not trying to be too funny or anything like that. Just being like a real person. And same with videos, being a real person on videos at the same time. Be authentic.
Yeah, I like to think of it as, and this is one of the things that I follow a lot of, is culture, cultural language, lexicons, because that's one of the things that helps make content a little bit more authentic. Not to say like go find some new lexicons and like stuff that in. That's not what I'm saying. But my point is, when I'm even reading content or, you know, asking other people and like evaluating their search behaviors, when I ask them this particular thing, like why did this one resonate with you? It's usually the pieces that aren't keywords. It's other things, like the way that they spoke about that, about like the language that went around the topic that makes you understand that they know the topic. Trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but like if you're trying to speak to a younger generation, you're going to use things like, you're going to use an adjective like insane, because that's a popular. Speak like your audience.
Yeah. We say that too sometimes, and we'll say, you know, don't use the words and phrases from your industry. Use the words and phrases that your audience uses, you know,
or that you use.
You use. Yes. Like, don't try to be too technical and professional about it, but use the right words. I mean, use the words that are authentic, that your audience is using and that you're using. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much more that could be said about authenticity, but clearly Google and people prefer brands that are authentic, that are their real selves, that aren't trying to be something they aren't, that aren't too corporate. So we hope that was helpful for you. Please subscribe and like the video. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.